How's it going, everyone? Mike the War Host here, and today we're continuing along with Spooktober by talking about the other Hex Posse ported over from Mythos last year, the Wyldborne. The Wyldborne are worshippers and creatures of the wild, a darker and more primal force of nature than the great spirit of the warrior nation tribes. The sisters Dorothy and Mercy Good sacrificed their parents to the wild and gained the service of a pair of giant serpents, as well as the Nukkalevi Lauren and the Carcosa monstrosity called Cernos. This motley group gladly enacts the will of the wild in the Shadow War. An interesting bit of lore was dropped during the addition of the Wyldborne to Wild West Exodus. The Wyld is seemingly responsible for bringing forth the Carcosa into the world. As such, all Carcosa units, save Carcosa Rex, also have the Wyldborne keyword, which will become more important later on in the video. The Posse bonus for the Wyldborne is rather interesting. After passing a grit check, a unit in the Posse may count the Guts bonus on an adventure card as a +1 bonus to both limit and fortune during their activation. This lends itself rather well to a very aggressive playstyle, getting in your opponent's face as quickly as possible and swinging, or biting in some cases, away. The Wyldborne Posse comes with 5 models totaling up to 72 points. You get Dorothy Good and Blood, Mercy Good, Lauren, Naturalists, and Cernos. Dorothy Good is your Posse boss, and she is an absolute beatstick in a posse full of beatsticks. She comes with Counter Strike to take a swing at an enemy unit after they do, Dark Counsel to compel nearby tainted units, expose their weakness to make brutal attacks done by nearby friendly units more deadly, Eye for the soft parts for her own brutal attacks, Forceful Strike to add an additional -2 piercing to a melee attack, Immune to Pain to ignore hazard and the first point of piercing for most attacks, and Monstrous to force a reroll on success morale tests for nearby enemy units. She has 2 melee attacks to represent how conjoined she and Pet Snake Blood actually are. Her Sacrificial Blade has Refine and Thrown for some short range, as well as Fatal on a crit. Blood's Fanged Maw comes with Brutal, Tangle, and Refined, as well as Fatal on a crit. Dorothy has the potential to one-shot a boss or commander right off the table with a combination of a Sacrificial Blade Strike, a critical success to trigger Fatal, and Ignoring Metal, and Forceful Strike to bump the piercing to an eye-watering -4. Mercy Good is one of the few sources of dedicated ranged attacks in this posse, as well as a solid way to single out faces in a group of hands, or specialists in a group of troops, depending on the opponent. She has Eye for the soft parts for additional brutal wounds, Death Dealer to make her attacks hit that much harder, Profane Nest for an additional free Hexalith at the start of the game, Shadowy Visage to make targeting her by human units harder, and Step from the Shadows to move up the board. Mercy Good is armed with a Fell Blade that has Brutal and Attuned, as well as Fatal on a crit. And she also has a Poison Dart with a 10-inch range, Close Work, and Fatal on a crit. Something to keep in mind is the combination of Death Dealer, Eye for the soft parts, and Attuned means Mercy can potentially one-shot a face with a single crit, or take down a face that's already used metal. Lauren is your fast-moving beatstick in your beatstick posse. She comes with Bull Rush to focus strikes in a charge action for free, Compel to force a nearby unit into taking a free action, Deadly Ram to make her ram attacks hit harder, Decapitate makes her attacks against models on a size 1, 2, or 3 base lethal, Form Up on Me to help push hands units up the board, Moving Target makes her harder to hit after taking a full move action, and Nukkalevi lets her automatically get a critical success when moving within 10 inches of a booby trap or making a jump action. She can also use a special action to remove a nearby booby trap or portal within 12 inches. Lauren is armed with a nasty Nukkalevi Javelin with a -3 piercing and Brutal on a crit, as well as the same Fanged Maw that Dorothy Good and Blood come with. If she attacks a small enough unit with Dorothy nearby to add an additional Brutal Wound, Lauren can easily take down a face or boss with a single swing. As I said, a fast-moving beatstick in a posse full of beatsticks. Naturalists is a cheap and fast attack delivery system. It comes with Compel to force a nearby unit to take a free action, Elusive to get out of scraps quickly, Eye for the soft parts for additional brutal wounds, Monstrous to force rerolls on successful enemy morale checks, and Surefoot to ignore uneven ground penalties and reroll quick checks. Naturalists has the same Fanged Maw attack that both Dorothy Good and Lauren have, so there's really nothing to add there. What should be added, though, is the presence of the Mutation, Nzambu, and Dark Nation keywords, meaning Nadrio can be added to a great many hex posses as well. Cernos is your big scary beatstick in your list of beatsticks. He comes with the standard Expose the Weakness for additional brutal wounds, Forceful Strike to add more piercing to an attack, Immune to Pain to ignore hazard and the first point of piercing for most attacks, Malefic Aura to buff nearby hex units, Monstrous to force rerolls on successful enemy morale tests, and Surefoot to reroll quick checks and ignore uneven ground. Cernos' weapons are where things get a bit interesting. He has a Spirit Claw with Attuned for additional piercing, a Cruel Horn special attack with Lethal and Refined as well as a -2 piercing on a crit, and a Necrotic Breath special attack with Hazardous and Fatal on a crit. This is also a Torrent attack, so be sure to catch as many units with it as possible. So now that you know what you get in the Posse box, what's the best way to put together a tournament-ready list? This is one of the smaller Posse boxes, so it gives you a good amount of freedom making your list. Starting with just the Wyldborne box, you have slots for another two units with the Wyldborne keyword, and there are quite a few interesting options to choose from in the unit cards. Personally, I would choose Opie and a trio of Spirit Apparitions. This brings your point total up to 105, leaving 45 additional points for a separate posse. You can really bring just about anything you want at this point. Want to bring out your big scary beasts? Grab Victor Beidel and Tainted Biology Posse to go full freak show. Want to lean in on the wild aspect of the posse? Pick up Wikasasni and her Dark Nation Posse. Think a horde of cheap hands units being driven forward by Lauren sounds cool? Wake Felipe Espinosa up and grab plenty of Golden Army hands units to bring along. As I mentioned before multiple times in this video, the Wyldborne is a posse full of melee-focused beat sticks with a posse bonus that encourages pushing forward and getting right in your opponent's face ASAP. There aren't many tricks here, just some good old-fashioned haunted forest violence. Fun for the whole family, really. Well, that's going to do it for me today. Stay tuned for more Wild West Exodus, Mythos, Fog and Friction, and Dystopian Wars content in the near future, as well as some looks at Lost World Exodus in the not-so-near future. Maybe. At some point. Please? Alright, take care everyone.